Hey everyone, Perri and Adam back here again. We've got another review from TIFF 2018 for you. This one is of Joel Edgerton's second directorial effort. It is Boy Erased, starring Lucas Hedges, and he is a young gay man who is being forced to go through a conversion therapy by his parents here. And I just saw this one. This is actually the first, this is the last movie I saw, and this is one of those ones that's making me think a little bit about Beautiful Boy, and it's not just the boy comparison. I know we keep going back with that, but it's one of those things where, especially where it ends too, you need to kind of let it sink in and process. So the thought of talking about it right now is a little overwhelming, but I was incredibly moved by this story.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. It's interesting. It's based on a true life story, and it's written and directed by Joel Edgerton, who is an actor who in like Bright, but then also wrote and directed The Gift, like an incredible horror film. This is a very different follow-up film for him. It's not a horror film. Well, in some ways it is.
Yeah.
And it's based on a true story, and the kid grew up in a very religious household. His father is a pastor-to-be. His mother's very conservative in Arkansas. And I felt like when it came to the religious stuff of it, I found myself wanting to know more about the titular boy, about how he felt. Because it's very clear that, at the beginning of the film, he feels like he wants to change, or at least he says he does. And this is what they've been taught, is that what they feel is wrong, and they're going to right it by going to this gay conversion therapy. I never really got to see that internal struggle of the character played wonderfully by Lucas Hedges.
Oh my God, he's something else.
Who is obviously, everyone saw Manchester by the Sea and was like, I want him in that movie.
Yeah.
Because he's in Lady Bird. Here, he has 3 films here at TIFF.
3 films here. Sadly, I'm missing one of them, but even just seeing this movie after having seen him in mid-90s, because mid-90s he plays like a tough bully.
Yeah.
He just has so much range. It's insane.
Yeah, he's a chameleon. But I found myself wanting to know more about, how does he himself reconcile his faith with his sexuality? Someone who has grown up in this very strict religious household and told that it's wrong. Where does he feel about his religion was kind of what I was looking for. And I felt it fell a little short on that regard. But in telling a story about this gay conversion therapy camp, I thought it was very effective. Joel Edgerton plays the leader of the camp with dubious credentials, which is how a lot of these camps go. And there was recently a really great profile in the news, I can't remember the outlet that came out, about an all-girls gay conversion therapy that was really terrifying. So this is an actual thing that's happening, and I feel like it's an important story that needs to be told. But I was so on the execution here.
Applying the term horror to this movie, I think, is very appropriate, because the second you brought that up, I went back to one particular scene where you know that feeling where you're watching a haunted house movie and you're going through the halls and it's like, I gotta get out of here. It's got that quality to it, and it really, it kind of rocked me in my seat, where I got very panicked at a point for him. Yeah. But in terms of what you had brought up at the very beginning, I think it's because of where they start the story too, because they do start it right at the onset of him kind of managing, who he is and dealing with his parents' expectations. And I'll definitely agree that I didn't really see much of the religious connection, or at least the wheels in his head turning as it relates to what his father is doing and how he grew up in a religious household. But what winds up happening with that for me, that left me in a very satisfying place in that respect. I'm not going to spoil anything here, but there's one particular line towards the end of the film that kind of put everything into perspective so beautifully for me, where it had meaning for his character, for multiple characters in the movie, but that's the kind of message that you walk out of that theater and you put it in your back pocket, and you always remind yourself of it, no matter what situation you're in, no matter who you are, who you're dealing with. You think about stuff like that, and it was a very nice, powerful thing to be able to take with me.
Yeah, I will say I really liked how the parents were portrayed in this film.
Yes.
Russell Crowe plays the father, Nicole Kidman plays the mother. But when Lucas Hedges comes out to his parents, the father doesn't beat him, the father doesn't disown him. It's clear that his parents really care about him, but they come to the wrong conclusions about what to do. And you see them kind of wrestling internally with what's going on. And they both have 2 different perspectives on it, as oftentimes happens in these kind of conservative households.
And their reaction almost reflects this rule book that he gets when he goes into this conversion therapy, where, you know, it may sound easier to just be able to fall back on rules or something written in black and white on a piece of paper, rather than to challenge yourself to accept and understand something new. And having that idea in so many different elements of the story, I think it all came together really well when I think about that particular thing. But you know, he's just an exceptional director, and this to me has been a festival that has highlighted so many actors turned directors in the best way possible. I still can't believe what we've gotten from Edgerton, now from Jonah Hill, from Bradley Cooper. So I'm really definitely thrilled with how Boy Erased turned out, and I'm also excited to see what he does next, especially with what you brought up. It's a completely different film compared to The Gift. There's basically no similarities whatsoever.
No.
And I really think he did a great job, and Lucas Hedges is something else, and Nicole Kidman's performance is fantastic in this. We'll also get to talk about Destroyer 2, but she is another one who's been a chameleon at this festival. Just completely has lost, I've seen both movies now, and you'll hear about this more in that review, but loses herself. And, you know, so did Russell Crowe, too.
Yeah.
The two of them. I mean, when you have such a powerhouse A-list status person in a role, I feel like their work becomes even harder and harder to actually lose that star persona in the character they're playing. And they do it exceptionally well here. And even some of the other teenagers in that group, too, I think they make a big impression. I wish I can remember that one young
Xavier
actor's
Dolan,
name.
Yes. The Canadian filmmaker, and then Troye Sivan, who's Troye Sivan. I think he's a YouTube star.
Okay, I think he's probably
for the kids, for the children out there.
He might be the one that I'm talking about, but they all made a really great impression, and just the way that Edgerton captures all of that. Again, it goes back to what I was saying about horror, where it kind of locks you in that situation, and it is extremely frightening and heartbreaking, but you have to go on the journey to figure out the rest.
And it is very clear that Hedges, I mean, I was talking earlier with Collider's Matt Goldberg about, I mean, Hedges is going to win an Oscar someday. He feels like he's in that early Matt Damon stage where Matt Damon was like doing stuff like Courage Under Fire and Talented Mr. Ripley. It's just a matter of time. I mean, the kid's a chameleon. I mean, here in Boy Erased, he's a closeted religious gay kid. In mid-90s, he's an abusive older brother in the 90s who's kind of macho and into hip-hop. And in Ben Is Back, he plays an addict to his mother, Julia Roberts. And all three completely different films, completely different roles, and he just disappears in each one.
All right, the time has come. It's grade time. What'd you give this one?
I gave it a C+. It's
okay, all right. I'm a little higher on this one, actually a lot higher. I'm going a B+. I really appreciated the way this whole story was constructed, but I think more than anything was the feeling that I walked away with. I mean, most of the time when I figure out a grade, it's reliant on many different things when I experience a movie, but more so than anything, it's about that feeling that I walk away with, and I was like a little overwhelmed by the whole thing, and I really appreciated the sentiments that it left me with. So it is a B+ for Boy Erased. There it is. That's our review. Guess what? We've got even more for you, so keep an eye on the Collider Video YouTube channel and also Collider Quick, because we've got more TIFF coverage on the way.